Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the General Purposes Committee meeting for Monday, March 18th, 2024 to order. May I have a motion on the minutes?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor, post carried. Okay, we have one delegation. Apparently, Mr. Kiesman is online. So what do we have to do for him to come in? Doesn't look like Mr. Kiesman. Okay, so Robert, as we are getting you into the meeting, all right, so if you could introduce yourself and you have 5 minutes. Is Mr. Kiesman in? We seem to have lost him. All right, so well, let's get going with the rest of the agenda.
Unfortunately, I seem to have an unstable connection. I can't, it's the audio's cutting out. Can you hear me?
Yes, who is that? Oh, is that Robert?
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, we can hear you.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, everybody. I'm
Okay,
okay.
so you've got
I'll shut off my audio. I'll shut off my video. I'm very sorry. I'm having some communications problem.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me, Mayor Brody?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm very sorry. I'm having connections problems. Just let me know when you'd like me to start, Mayor.
Right now.
Okay, thank you. I can see Councillor Gillander, so if my voice cuts out, Councillor, can you please just give me a hand signal? I'm very sorry for this. Thank you, Mayor. I'm Robert Kiesman, Chairman of the Steveston Harbour Authority. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Harbour Authority in our opposition to the proposed bus loop at 6th Avenue. We did send a letter to Council on February the 12th, and I hope Council has reviewed it. My primary concern is that the information that I believe staff from the city is giving Council is not sufficient in order for Council to make an informed decision. We've reviewed the memos that staff has prepared, including the one on February 29th of this year, which was 17 days after our letter. And while they spent a full paragraph basically bashing the Harbour Authority, blaming us for not supporting this and laying it all on our shoulders, they didn't bother to mention why. There was no reasons why we're opposed to it and some of the legitimate concerns that we've raised. I want to raise two of them with you today. Number one, about 25 years ago, the City of Richmond asked us at the Harbour Authority, before my time, to open up the walkway from 4th Avenue to 7th Avenue in order to enable the public to walk from downtown in Steveston to Garry Point. We've done that, and as you know, it is extremely popular and very busy, 12 months a year, and we love it. Everybody loves it, and we found a way to integrate our industrial operations with public and tourism, which was not easy to do. So we've done that, and we're spending a lot of money with the city in partnership to create murals, to create informative signs, interpretive signs for the fishing industry, because we're good partners with the city. We find that the idea of driving a bus loop through the middle of that, bus every 4 minutes, is crazy, it's unsafe, and we are completely against it. Secondly, I want to just remind Council that similar to the city's Farming First strategy that you've adopted for the ALR, the Harbour Authority is now in year 10 of a very similar project for the fishing industry. So just like the provincial government set aside land for farming, the federal government has set aside this land for the fishing industry. And we're taking it very seriously. We're collecting fishing companies from all over the Lower Mainland who can't afford to operate on private land so that they could share infrastructure at a subsidized rate. We've got $50 million in capital projects done in the last 10 years, and we're only getting started. The city's been working with us as a partner on all these things, and we have big plans by necessity for the area where this bus loop is proposed to be at our 7th Avenue water lots all the way down to 4th Avenue. There's some fishing companies in Vancouver that literally are not going to be afford to work where they are scattered all over the mainland. And I believe 10 years from now, the Steveston Harbor Authority is probably going to have the only real amount of land left for the fishing industry to operate in the lower mainland. Is my voice okay still? Okay, thank you. And so we're very concerned that a bus loop carving through the middle of that property is going to impede our ability. It's no different than proposing to put a bus loop on ALR property, as far as we're concerned. And I just want you to know that when I brought these concerns to a public meeting at the 2020, a legitimate concern about moving gear and back and forth and so on to the docks, your director of transportation told me, he said, well, let me know and I can come down and, quote, get us to stop carrying out these activities. Can you imagine that? A representative of the city telling us that he'd like to get us to stop carrying out the activities that we've been doing for 100 years on that property or more, just because we have the audacity to raise some legitimate concerns against this bus loop. It's crazy. And so I just want staff to know that the memos that you're getting are not showing you the full, council to know that the memos that you're getting are not showing the full picture. You have First Nations concerns. There's public petitions that have concerns because of the daycare that's there, and you have very legitimate operational and safety concerns from the Harbour Authority, which is the largest fishing harbour in Canada, that I don't think council has been made aware of in a very transparent and balanced way from your staff. So I would refer you to our letter of February 12th and urge council to oppose this bus loop.
All right, thanks. We're not going to take any questions. We've got a very long agenda. Mr. Kiesman, we've been through this. There were a number of delegations the last time. The bottom line of the situation is we're in the middle of a public consultation. Your remarks will definitely be taken into account. Having said that, it is the consultation by TransLink, not by the city, and they have assured us that at the end of the consultation that they will be producing a report, so there will be plenty of time to discuss that. So thank you very much for your presentation. And now we're going to go to the next item on the agenda, which is the Economic Development Strategy Update. So, staff, anything to add to your report?
Your Worship, we have nothing to add.
All right, we'll see if there's any comments or questions. Councillor Day.
Well, I wanted to ask Delegate a question. Thank you.
All right. All right, Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thanks very much for the report. I thought it was a good basis to start with. Actually, it's a suggestion on page 10. When we look at the public engagement, you make some suggestions, but very often, I would hope that we could list the Chamber of Commerce and highlight also Chinese business associations that are out there. And one that I thought, and also the farmers. And the other thing I thought, Your Worship, as we well know, is transportation and the trucking industry. It's huge in Richmond. I don't think people know, and council would be getting pressure all the time to find parking for trucking within the men and women that drive truck in this community is as large as any other community. So, Your Worship, other than that, I thought it was a good template to move on, and it would be interesting to see the other thing is just trying to. Oh, the other thing is, it would be interesting to find the day-to-day business people. The small mom and pop shops, they're part of economic development. You know, for example, and I don't mean all the restaurant industries all the time. We've got some smaller, 1 to 6 people industries within the community.
So I take it those groups are among those groups you're going to be consulting with?
To the mayor and also through the chair to Councillor McNulty, yes. So we're happy to hear from council and others on groups to be consulted with. We will be bringing back the results of that initial research and analysis stage to council with the engagement plan before we start the engagement. So certainly happy to hear now and also happy to continue
Thank
to
you.
hear about groups we should consult.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Your Worship, there's two questions to staff. My first one is in regards to the Table 1 on page 10 and the report to council that's coming. It says research results for information. My question is that the first of its kind? Is that the start of an annual reporting? Does that compare to anything we've received in the past? Thanks.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, so this would be specific to the development of this new strategy. So it would be the research and analysis stage of sort of where we are right now in Richmond, what we may need for the future. And so that would be specific to this research phase.
Great. That's nice to note that that would come in the expected time of next January. My next question is, I like the mention there of the donut economics model. And that leads to one of the key action areas on page 13. Yep, the last one, number 9, it says maintain a high quality of environment, life, and public services. And then the three programs, initiatives implemented on the right, I know what the food mesh one is about, but the other two are a bit more vague. Could you just describe or provide an example? What's economic data reports, like when do that information typically come? And then what's an example of a facilitation of business engagement in public consultations?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf. So in terms of economic data and reports on GP 13, under that number 9, on our website right now, we have the quarterly reports that we send as part of the financial report that comes to council. We also have interactive sort of Tableau data that folks can look at to sort of see how we're doing as an economy in Richmond. So that's a tangible way for folks to engage with the data that we have, makes it a bit real for them as well. In terms of facilitation of business engagement and public consultation, so across a range of activities that the city undertakes, including, for example, the Circular City strategy, the community wayfinding strategy, we look to partner with the business community to bring them into those consultations as and when relevant.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really great report. What I noticed was missing, and I know it's not part of this part directly, but housing. I understand from talking to a lot of business owners that their biggest problem is getting staff because there's no housing nearby or anywhere in Richmond, actually. And so they were just, they asked me if we could just build more housing for workers, then they'd be able to attract workers. Is that going to be any part of this?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, we certainly understand the concern and the priority for businesses as well as for the broader community on that issue. So right now, in terms of the stage we're at in the strategy, we're really at the beginning, right? We're looking for endorsement to get started. But through the consultations and the research phase, we can certainly explore top of mind issues. But on the housing front, I would anticipate that it would be the partnerships with our colleagues in the city in terms of the existing plans and those in the future that would deliver housing in the community that we would be looking.
So more to come later. Thank you.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor, post carried. Thank you, staff. And then we go to the homelessness strategy update. Chris Duggan and company.
Thank you. I have nothing further to add. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Going to Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to just highlight, I found the report and the strategy update informative and right up to date with some of the recent things that we've passed on council, and appreciated that. And one question I have about the data that's in both of those, the report and the document, maybe I'll just highlight the document. So there's a nice table on our page GP 41. It's table number 3. It's a Brighouse Drop-In Center visits per month, and you can just look at the N for the total per year. So my question is, if last year had this incredibly high number of over 7,000, and the year before had like 2,600, is the 2,600 low because of the tail end of the pandemic and the way things were being reported and this facility being used? Or have, like previous pandemic, like 2019, were those numbers high in the 7,000 equivalency range? Or are we far exceeding the capability of this center and what it's been historically used for? Thanks.
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, we have seen more regular use by consistent individuals over time. And so the drop-in center has developed a very good reputation within the community for being able to provide meals and referrals and support to individuals. And so we are seeing significantly higher usage as time goes on.
Just to follow up, do we happen to know if the last highest number was the year before? So it was the 2,600, the previous highest number of visits?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, numbers have been gradually increasing with the very significant increase this past year.
Great, thank you very much for that.
I think that's an important point about the relative numbers. I wonder if you could, if this goes through today, which I expect it will, could you give us a memo with previous years' numbers on it, so we'll have more of a comparative analysis?
Yes.
I realize that some of the programs have only been going for so long, but you can give us back to the inception if that's the way it is. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. If you put it in such a concise way, it's easy to read. On page GP 41, again, staggering numbers that are drop-in visits in 2022 were 2,600, and in 2023, 7,300. I mean, that's threefold. And then the same thing with the meals served, and we served 10,000 lunches. So my question is, that's a really tiny facility. How is it possible that it can serve that many people? And are we at the breaking point? Do we need to build or find another location that could serve that many people?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the flow throughout the day when people are coming and going to gather meals is fairly significant. And so there does appear to still be sufficient room in that facility to meet the needs of the people who are using it on a daily basis. Long term, there may be a need to look at other options.
So what's the plan on, I believe it's at April 15th, the South Arm pool area will be closed. So where will those people go?
Through the chair to, through your worship to Councillor Day, Turning Point, who is operating the warming center, has been working incredibly hard with the individuals staying in those locations, both Brighouse and South Arm, and have had a significant number of referrals to other sheltering programs, to housing programs, and to other communities over the past several weeks. And they are anticipating that people will be able to find some alternate forms of housing. Some individuals may choose to go back to other forms of camping in the community.
So the last thing I think everybody in council and in the city wants is another encampment. So what's it going to take to make that a zero possibility?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, there will be a closed report coming forward in the coming weeks that may provide some opportunities for council to consider options.
Okay, if we do have to have encampment, is there somewhere else other than the center of Richmond?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, I think any location where we need to have individuals experiencing homelessness staying does need to be accessible and needs to provide the opportunities to have food and housing and shelter all in one place. Yeah. And so I think a location is warranted.
Okay, we'll talk more about that in close then. Thank you.
Councillor McNulty.
Just a comment, a great report. Thanks very much. I guess, when we deal with a topic like strategy and stuff, we're talking about it, and it revolves around Councillor Day's final comment here, the encampment, and that homelessness is only going to increase. It's increasing daily. It's increasing in Metro-wise. There are 1,836 people on the waiting list for housing. That's growing every day. And I guess what we fail to do, and it's just something I've been thinking about for some time, is a realistic implementation and a strategy in how to handle the NIMBY phenomenon. Nobody wants any homelessness in their backyard. They don't want a trailer park near them. They don't want this, they don't want that. And I guess it's everyone's problem, and we need to coexist. If you take the number of homelessness that are out there, we can build 50 homes and you still haven't dealt with the issue. You can build 500 homes, you still haven't dealt with the issue. So I think we need to figure out where we're going to put people, how we're going to put them there, and not only us, but all levels of government, because it's not just our problem, et cetera. We're seeing it firsthand. But, you know, people don't want them in the park because they're doing recreation activity. They don't want them at the library because they're doing. They don't want them on Stephenson Highway. They don't want them anywhere. What are we going to do? You know, we have to do something. What I'm getting, Your Worship, and I'm not asking for an answer, I think we need to look at how we implement things, where we do it, and we deal with the NIMBY concept. I remember when we put the first foster home in Richmond on Pendlebury down near me.
Oh, yeah.
When you remember that, Your Worship, it was war, okay? Finally got it. Now we have foster children looked after all over. So I'm just looking at it from that point of view, Your Worship. And I just bring it up because we keep talking about the stats and we got this and we that, but we got to deal with the other as well. Because there are other people. We need the public to help us as well.
Yeah, while we figure out the NIMBY, how to handle NIMBYs, we got other stuff to do. Okay, may I have a motion accordingly?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. I've got something to bring up just shortly, but all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. But on a related note, and Chris, you alluded to it really, is another shelter. I think that we have to take a look now to see whether there is a need for another shelter, like, as it's been pointed out, you know, the South Arm Brick House, they only go to April 15th. Do we need something that's, instead of those two, which are stopgap measures, do we need something all year round or whatever? So it's very simple. What my suggestion is that we refer the matter to staff to look at the need and the options for another shelter here in Richmond.
I would so move.
Okay, so that's moved and seconded. Okay, Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, through you to staff, some of the people that are homeless are hard to house. So are we just shuffling the problem around Richmond by creating another shelter, or do we need a better partnership maybe with the provincial government in creating some sort of specific housing for people who have, you know, certain mental health issues and actually need a certain level of care? And maybe that looks like something different. It looks like a proper building with proper staffing and proper care for people. So instead of just saying, yeah, we're going to have homeless people and we need to create, you know, make the public happy about it, it's like, how about we actually help people get off the street? But some of these people, it's not just a matter of unaffordable housing. It's bigger than that. And not everyone is drug addicted. Not everyone's all these other things. But it's also not just our jurisdiction. I think like some proper standalone housing needs to happen, and not just supportive housing. Like something slightly different needs to be coming forward.
Your Worship, to Councillor Liu, staff have been in conversations with BC Housing about other options, also about shelter options, so either a new shelter or the potential to expand the current shelter on Horseshoe Way. So those conversations are happening right now. There is recognition that there has been an increase in homelessness. There's also been discussion about what other options may be available in terms of different types of housing. So not shelter housing, not supportive, but maybe something in between those two options. So we are looking at what unique and creative ways might we be able to respond to the homelessness situation and involve the provincial government to take on some of that responsibility as we are moving forward and seeing our shelters increase and seeing that we're having to respond as a city with greater resources.
Okay, and just a follow-up to that, I think we also saw in the budget that there's something like 1,600 spaces that will be made available for seniors' care. Does that cover any of what we need? And they said some of the spaces could come to Richmond. Like, does that help ameliorate any of our homeless issue as well?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, any housing options or care options do help to lessen the impact of need within the community. So we continue conversations also with the Health Authority and with VCH about what options are available through health as well. It's a partnership and a collaborative approach, so we will continue to have those conversations and look at what other options are available to us.
Okay. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Okay, so yes, there are some that are hard to house, but what we really need is secure health care for them and get them into a
This is on
facility.
the merits of referral.
Yeah, so the merits of the referral are 100% needed. Are the largest demographic of homeless is seniors. And so what I'm wondering is, while you're looking at this referral, I understand there's a group, and I can send you the link, and basically it's kind of like seniors to seniors, where it's like a matchmaking service to find a senior that's got an extra room and a senior who needs a room. And it could be a win-win situation for both the vulnerable senior who's going to end up homeless and for the one who's living alone. And are you going to be looking at creative options outside of BC Housing for things like that?
The referral is on a shelter.
Okay, and once again,
That's where we start.
yeah, so then the other idea was floated out by Councillor McNulty. We talked about getting a commercial trailer and putting it on a lot and potentially behind the shelter. And I understand after talking to the Salvation Army that that would be difficult because of the zoning. But I also did some research, and there's a Brighouse United Church on Bennett that's up for rent. And there's also a warehouse directly across the street from the Ironwood shelter.
All right, you can
So-
have that chat with staff. We're on the merits of referral.
We need
Councillor
another
Heed.
shelter, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm fully in support of the referral here, and I just wanted to remind people that we do have a letter into the Premier, I believe, and the Minister from our Mayor indicating our formal position on secure care for the acute drug addicted and the significant people with mental health issues. So anything related to that would be in support. So I strongly endorse what the referral says.
Okay, so on the referral, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So I'm going to move for adjournment. All right, I'll call the closed GP to order, and may I have a motion on closure compliance in the agenda? All those in favor, post carried, and we'll wait for the room to be ready.